Hello everybody and welcome back to Physics Talks. Today I have two reviews for you. First is going to be on a film called Hereditary. It is a very recent horror film that I've seen and I think it stands out leagues above the rest, and I will tell you why very soon. Second, I'll be talking about a TV series I've been watching recently called Altered Carbon. It is a Netflix original and it is a juicy cyberpunk adventure. It is wonderful. Really impressed by it. I was recommended this by a streamer, so thank you very much to who you are. I can't remember exactly who it was that mentioned it, but thank you because I love it. I think it's really good. So if you enjoyed today's video, please do leave it a like and subscribe if you want to help support me and my channel. I'm going to be doing more of these little reviews scattered throughout the week as I do my regular uploads. Starting from tomorrow, it should be back to a more regular uploading schedule. Sorry again that things have been so screwed up recently. Right. So, Hereditary. Hereditary is horror done right. And there are many reasons as to why this is. Firstly, I want to say that after a while, all horror films start to look the same, they start to feel the same, they start to sound the same, and it's a real shame because I love horror a lot. And if you really think about it, how many good horror films do you really get in a year? And I mean good horror films. What, 2 or 3? 3 or 4 sometimes? You really don't get that many great horror films in a year, and it's a real shame. So when something like Hereditary comes out, I am super pleased, super eager, and I was thrilled by it. I really was, because I'd heard great things about it coming from Sundance Film Festival, I believe, and it really did stand up to its expectations. So one of the biggest reasons why all horror films start to look and sound and feel the same is because of Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions. Now, this guy is a very good businessman, he really is, because he knows how to make money from horror. And this is by creating a lot of horror films with a very low budget. He loves chucking his money at basically anything, to the point where you now have Blumhouse in the advertisement for example, Truth or Dare, which is a recent horror film that came out. It is now Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, so he's getting that big of a name for himself. So Blumhouse is the guy that will do the Ouija board films, he does like Insidious, all that kind of stuff. He's pretty much, if you watch a lot of horror films, take note of the production company at the start, and it's nearly always Jason. And this is a real shame because the films are basically just made to make you go, whoa, spooky, whoa, jump scares, whoa. But I get so tired of that because a jump scare isn't a story. A jump scare isn't good acting. A jump scare isn't good cinematography, sound design, and all that. It's just a boom, hey. And now I get a kick out of the Insidious films just because of the startle factor. Like, they're not scary at all because all they focus on are the jump scares, and that's pretty much it. The Insidious films have the most god-awful, nonsensical plots that it just makes no sense. It's like, how much power do these ghosts have? How can they interact with people? What is the further? How do you interact with the further? It's like, you know, none of it makes sense. But anyway, so this is why Hereditary really impressed me, because it was so different and so unique. And one of the main things that makes it so unique is the cinematography. It does some really clever stuff because one of the main characters, she makes loads of models, like doll's house models, that kind of stuff. And some of the establishing shots, so that's like a shot of a house before it moves to the scene inside the house. Some of the establishing shots of the house where they live is a doll's house version of that house before it goes in. And I think that's a really clever way of doing things. There's a really interesting opening shot where the camera's zooming in on this doll's house into rooms, and it turns out that that's the room where the scene is going on. I'll show you a quick clip from the trailer. I just think that's a really cool way of doing things. It's something I've never seen before, and it ties in with the story really well. So yeah, really nice cinematography. There are some great shots in this film, there really are. And I think that's something that you need to see more in horror films. Films like It Follows and The Witch, I think they had great cinematography as well, especially It Follows. The Witch, I wasn't a big fan of the colour palette, but aside from that, I thought that was an incredibly interesting film. And this is Ari Aster's debut film, and I think just incredible, really incredible for your first film. It's just amazing. And we have some wonderful performances, especially from Toni Collette, who is the leading lady, playing a character named Annie. These characters actually don't have last names. I've seen that done before. It's an interesting way of doing things. But Toni Collette just had this very real performance, incredibly real. But you also had a great performance from Alex Wolff, who plays Peter, who is the son of Toni Collette's character Annie. Now, there's something very special about this film that I liked very much, and it's that it was a very real interpretation of a ghost story. It felt very real. It felt very real, like this could happen in this universe. It's not like silly spiritual stuff and over-the-top seances. It has a very genuine feel to it, and that adds to the horror very well. So the scary factor, these days it's very hard for films to scare me because I've seen so many horror films and I've played so many horror games, but it did a pretty good job. It really did. Something it did very well was subtle scares, as in scares where you have to be really looking to notice the scary part. For example, there was a scene where Peter had woken up in bed and was sitting up, but behind him, up in the corner of the room, was this possessed woman, and you had to really be looking to notice that she was there. So I think scenes like that make this film stand out, because instead of like in your face jump scares, it's like really subtle stuff where you need to be looking to really notice it, and I think that has a more powerful effect. So I would definitely give Hereditary an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I think you guys should check it out, especially if you're a fan of horror. Now, the TV series I want to talk about is called Altered Carbon. It is a cyberpunk sci-fi series, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, really enjoying it. First thing that I really noticed was the wonderful special effects. For a TV series and a Netflix original, it has really decent effects, and that, considering it's a cyberpunk film, you are going to want special effects that are decent. So yeah, they really impressed me. Some of the cinematography is really nice. It's clearly heavily inspired by Blade Runner, and that's fine by me because I love Blade Runner, both films, the original and 2049. The main character is clearly inspired by Deckard, which is the main character from Blade Runner. He's a very steely, lockjawed sort of character, but the whole idea behind the series is that in the future, death isn't really a problem because you have your consciousness uploaded to this chip. So when you die, you can get put into a new body, a new sleeve as they call it. So it starts off with the main character, who was a criminal in his previous life, being put into a new sleeve, and he's an envoy, which is like someone that is very highly trained in fighting, and he is basically now owned by this company run by Mr. Barncroft. So he has to do his bidding because he's pretty much owned by him at this point. Character doesn't really care much about anything, and at first I was like, I don't really like this guy because he's a bit of an asshole, but I think there are going to be some really interesting arcs with his character. You are starting to see more emotion in him as the series goes on. So now that he's owned by Mr. Barncroft, he has to solve Mr. Barncroft's murder. Now, that sounds weird because shouldn't he be dead? But no, because he's been put into a new body. So he's trying to solve his own murder, and it's a very interesting mystery that I really like being in this cyberpunk world. It works very well. So I definitely recommend this to anyone that's into sci-fi or cyberpunk stuff. It's fantastic so far. I haven't got through the whole series yet, so I'm not going to be giving it a rating, but I'll probably be talking about it more in the future. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. If you've enjoyed today's video, please do leave it a like and subscribe if you want to help support me and my channel. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you in the next one. Take care now.